You got sparring for growth and sparring to win. So growth sparring, win sparring. So growth is what you would be doing majority of the time. When your focus is on growth, you practice experimenting. You work on your weak points. You have an objective, and you work on certain things. So the aim is to grow, is to get better. It's not to win, because that's a different focus. To win would mean you only use your strengths. You nullify your partner's strength, your opponent's strength, and you do everything you can to win. And that means you're taking minimal risk. You're not taking any more risk than you need to. You're using your strengths. You're using your body language. You're showing no vulnerability. All that sort of stuff. You're doing everything you can. You're rallying all your strengths and doing everything you can to win. That's win sparring. There's a time and place for that, and that would be if you have a fight. And the closer you get to the fight, the more you would do sparring to win, because that's what you're practicing to do, because that's how you're going to fight. But before that, you want to improve, and to improve, you have to work on your weak spots. You have to handicap yourself sometimes. You have to experiment. You have to experiment and do things that may be wrong. Do things that maybe will clobber you, like you'll get hurt doing them. Do things sometimes that maybe you're going to be losing the round. That's fine, because you take a little aspect, you take a little component, and then you work on that. That's growth and win sparring. So sometimes with growth sparring, you try out different strategies. So let's say, you're going to do, I'm going to work on certain ranges. So maybe you'll work on turning the fight into a clinch. Maybe you'll just work on your counters. Maybe your body shots aren't that great. You'll work on setting up your body shots, and that might be the aim for that session. And then, so I would say the majority of the time you'd be working on growth sparring, so 85% of the time. And then you reverse that if you have a fight coming up. And the closer you get to the fight, you do 100% win sparring. So you beat everyone in the gym. You try to anyway. So that's your goal, that's your aim. You want to win every single round. So when you switch to, I'm sparring to win, every round you aim to win. When you're in sparring to grow, every round you aim to improve on your objective or your goal that you chose to work on. It could be a weakness, it could be a strategy. Another idea that's good to think about and good to distinguish and good to know where you're at is what I call the sport versus fight spectrum. So everyone is on a spectrum where how they approach the sport, the fight. So how they approach Muay Thai. So you got some people are like on one end of the spectrum is this is just a sport, full respect. It's more an athletic activity, athletic endeavor. I'm using technique and it's a game, so these are probably the words that they would use: a game, technique, strategy, technical, a game of chess. That's more on the sport side of the spectrum. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got it's a fight. Like, I'm going to go in and smash him, destroy him, cut him open. You're thinking of the worst intentions. You want to murder this guy. That's like on the end of the fight spectrum. Like, this is a fight, and I'm only bound by the rules of Muay Thai. I want to kill this guy. This is a fight, but I'm doing it under the rules and under the guise almost of a Muay Thai fight, and there's rules limiting me. If there was no rules, I'll just stomp on him and kill him, type of thing. And so you got rules, you got whatever, and you abide by them, but you're kind of more bloodthirsty. It's more that I love the violence. So that's one end of the spectrum. Super bad intention. The other end, sporty and just treating it like a sport, like snowboarding or something. Now, where do you want to be on the spectrum? Like, firstly, it's good to know identify where are you on the spectrum. Like, are you more towards sport, more towards fighting, more just purely in the middle? I'd say most people are more towards sport, much more towards sport. I think it's better to err on the side towards fight. So be in the middle, but more towards fight. So have more of a better. Most people would do better, would perform better if they were more on the fight spectrum. Not too much. I know people and they were successful that were too much. That can work. And there's a lot of people on the other end of the spectrum that were extreme, and they did amazing. And they were super successful, super famous. But in general, for general purposes, so if you're listening, for you, if I had to pick like a good default, start in the middle, lean towards bad intentions. Not too much though, because if you're too sporty and you see, it's all technique and whatever, when you come up against someone who's more on the fight end of the spectrum and just wants to kill you, and you smell those bad intention pheromones, it's gonna mess with your head. Like if you're not that type, they will have an edge. It's not going to be fun fight. It's not fun fighting someone with such disgusting intentions to just tear you apart. Now, so that's when you fight. But when you train, you have to chop and change. You're not going to bring that into the gym. So this is what you do. When you spar, treat it as a sport. So think of a sport. All right. So you don't give out that bad intention vibe to your partners. Right. So do that as a sport. So sometimes when you train, you chop and change. You could practice going on one extreme, the other extreme. That's actually good, because then you get more control over your mind. You can be more versatile, go back and forth. So this is what you do. This is really good. When you spar, be on the end of the sport spectrum. So have full respect, treat it as a game. You play with strategy, practice all that stuff. So you don't want to give out that vibe of bad intentions to your partners. You don't want to do that. You want to save that for the fight. So with your partners, and when you're sparring, you practice sport end of the spectrum. When you're on bags, go full bad intentions. Bring out the worst in you. Everything. If you have a chip on your shoulder, if you have past traumas, if you are angry at someone, if people said you can't do this and whatever it is that triggers you, bring it up and use that on the bags. Tear up the bag. When you do pads, the same, but be controlled. Like have controlled aggression and controlled bad intentions, because you don't want to hurt your pad holder. But when you hit. You don't hit with power. You hit to, like, you don't kick the pad with power. You don't kick the bag with power. You kick the bag to break a leg. You need the bag to break ribs. That's what you should be visualizing. And so you got bags, pads. When you shadow with bad intentions, all right? When you shadow, this is a good opportunity for you to practice the things that you can't practice that you don't spar with, like elbows, drop elbows, 12 to 6 elbows, your snap kicks to the face, your axe kicks, driving the knee through the ribs, like all the stuff that you modify in sparring, or you don't do because, obviously you're not going to be dropping 12 to 6 elbows in someone's neck. Do them in sparring and visualize them, because that's the time to condition and to get into the habit and to remember, this is how I fight. When I spar, it's flawed. When I spar, it's modified. So you have to remember that, but you need somewhere to practice how you really fight, which is going to be on the bags. Obviously the bag's not going to hit your back, but you have to remember, you have to remind yourself, you have to do the movements, and you have to think those thoughts. So think them towards the bag. Don't think bag is conditioning. Bag is, like I said, breaking legs. Bag is, dislocating jaws. That's what you visualize on the bag. Get into that habit. Then when you fight, you can combine it and decide where you want to be on the spectrum. And also what this does, this practice, this awareness, it helps you regulate your emotions. If I want to be technical, I'll go on technical mode. So I'll switch that on. If I want to if I want to ooze evilness and bad intentions and just make you sick and intimidate you, I'll switch that on, like a light switch. That's what you want to get to. That's what you want to get at. You want to be like a chameleon. The next thing I'm going to talk about is hugely important for efficiency, is a habit that once you implement will compound in so much more gains than if you weren't aware of this. It's very simple, but I feel like 99% of people brushes past them. Maybe the experienced guys, they do it, but most people don't. Very important. Have an objective for every round when you spar. You don't need a trainer to tell you what the objective is. So objective is a goal. So pick something to work on. Every round. It doesn't have to change. It could be just for the whole session. Let's say something so simple. I want to land my jab, which means you don't have to block everything. Release some pressure. So if you pick something, you focus, like, let's say 80% of your mind on that, and you allow other things to happen, like you compromise a bit. All right, if I'm just going to focus on my jab, it means I'm going to probably not defend everything, and I'm going to take some leg kicks, and yeah, that's fine. Obviously, you're going to train with someone that allows you to do that. It's not going to just smash you. Like if you're sparring with someone that's just going to clobber you over for it, it's not going to work. So you train with good partners. That's not too hard. So when you take shots, you're not going to be so banged up, but you're going to take shots because you have to. You don't have the bandwidth to think of all the variables at the same time. So you got to isolate some variables, isolate some components, and work on them. Get them better, make them second nature. When they're second nature, you can integrate it. So when they become a habit, you don't have to think about them as much anymore. Then you work on the next component, and you work on different pieces, and you put them together. And eventually, when a lot of the pieces are a habit, you don't have to think about them. Then you move up the levels. With objectives, you can do, like, let's say micro or macro, or detailed or general. So you can think of it like that. Detailed would be, I just want to land my jab, meaning I have to focus on my range, meaning I have to focus on my timing, meaning I have to focus when the opening is, meaning I have to hide my jab, meaning I have to set up my jab. It's still a lot to think about. So you use all your bandwidth and 80% of your awareness to work on that. That's detail. Then if you want to zoom out and go, all right, today I feel like working more general. So general could be just making the person miss, and I'm focusing on range. So let's say he throws a punch, I'll slip and come in. Let's say he throws a punch, I might push off my front foot, step back, and just let him miss. He throws a kick, instead of checking, I might just push off one foot, step to the side, and take the edge off. So now I'm just going to be working on my footwork. So I'm working on my footwork as a defense. Maybe that could be a general thing to work on. So you pick something. So on your way to the gym, when you're driving in the car, if it's a sparring day, choose one or two things that today I want to work on. And that's for people you trust and people that are lesser skilled than you, which you can handle and control. If you get to the gym and one of the rounds is someone that's kicking your ass and that doesn't give you a breathing space, all right, just spar normally, try to defend and don't get hurt, whatever. So you don't have to getting hit just because you want to work on your jab. You're not going to gain anything out of that. So that's an exception, but use your common sense when to use that. In between rounds, this is another thing. So in between rounds, if you're just chatting away and you're not focused. So that minute in between rounds when you're sparring is the minute you talk to yourself. So you analyze, how do I do that round? And you go through it and you're like, all right, I wasn't really landing my jab. Go back to the jab example. Damn, how come? And then you play it back. You run it back, the scenario. Then you give yourself new instructions. Oh, okay, this time I'm going to try this. This time I'm going to try that. Actually, I was a little bit too tense. You know what? This round I'm gonna breathe more. That's right, I was holding my breath. This round I'm gonna focus on breathing, do exactly what I did, but move more smoothly. Let's see how that turns out. So you're talking to yourself, right? Then you go out and you do that round. So it's better quality training. It's more focused. Yeah, so when I look around and I see people chatting away, you know, I've got to remind them, guys, like you're not giving yourself feedback. You're not analyzing the last round. You know, it depends how serious you want to take training, but like for the most part, most of the time you're going to be there. Why not like focus, practice, and get as good as you can get. Your priorities in sparring and non-negotiables, like this should be like black and white. For me, these are my rules. Like these are non-negotiables. So before an objective or anything, like before anything, your accuracy and balance must be on point. If you're slightly off balance, that's what you work on. If you're missing shots, that you work on being accurate. Never miss. This is a big common mistake. A lot of people throw their shots and they miss because they're being polite. Hit your partner, but just hit them lightly. Aim for the forehead. Have an open hand. Open hand doesn't hurt as much as closed fist, right? But never, ever do yourself a disservice and do your partner the worst disservice, because your partner's not. You're training faulty. You're training yourself faulty, and you're training your partner faulty. If your partner is not practicing good defense, if something's coming this way and they try to defend it, or like it's distorted. It's so distorted. You get nothing out of it. So if you want to be polite, touch your partner, because then you're helping him, you're helping yourself. All right, but just learn how to control it. So you don't have to, and it's not that hard. You know, just tip tap. Just think you're slapping with a friend, but always touch your target. Accuracy is everything, including when you kick. You don't want to hit knees. You don't want to hit bones. You don't want to hit hips. You don't want to hit elbows. Like kick the arms, kick the soft tissue. And this is one of my pet hates. You don't want to hit checks. If you're hitting checks, just because you got shin pads on, you're getting a consequence, and that's so low level, and it looks just. It doesn't look good. In a real fight, shin on shin. You know, you're not going to get out of that habit. If you kick, you know, with shin pads when you're sparring, if you're just throwing for the hell of it and it's collecting shins, and you're not aware that that's a massive no-no. That's a massive loss to you. That's like unskilled. In a fight, you're collecting, you know, you're kicking shins. You're not going to not kick shins. You have to work around the shins. You have to get around the shins. You don't want to hit, you know, when the guard's up, you don't want to punch their gloves. Like, what's that doing? You know, get around the gloves, pull the gloves down, set it up, you know, hit the targets, hit the chin. Or don't hit at all. Like, be patient, don't just throw stuff for the hell of it. Pick your shots. So hit targets. Know the difference between a target and a non-target. No matter what, if you're sparring someone like a super beginner, just tap them, but don't ever miss. Don't ever just like kick for the check just for the hell of it, just because it's like a beginner sparring. No, you know, do everything lightly, whatever, but just do it correctly. And then balance. If you're slightly off balance, that's the best return on investment to fix. So if you're a bit sloppy, because that's going to affect everything. That's going to affect your accuracy. It's going to affect your power. That's going to affect your speed. So the balance is kind of like all the effectiveness of your technique is built on. So all your techniques will work better as long as your balance is intact. If the balance is off, everything is off. Focus on those two things, accuracy and balance. Don't focus on power, not even on bags, not even on pads. Your priority is accuracy, and including on bags, like hitting the bag, you know, on your knuckles, hitting the bag with your shin fully rotating, hitting the bag with the right heights. So if I'm going punch, body shot, and I'm not even dropping, it's not making any sense. So think of the height. A lot of people punch low on the bag, too low. Stand next to the bag, like stand up straight, get where your chin is, do a line, and that's where you should punch. And it's usually higher than you think. So that's part of accuracy. So you're training to be like a sniper level accuracy. You know, it doesn't matter how much power you got. If you miss, it's not going to do anything. Power is easy to switch on like a light switch. Power is just like effort, explosiveness. But if you have the foundation of you're balanced, you're accurate, then you add the layer of power, and that comes in easy. If you do it the other way around, where you do power first, that's it's gonna throw you off. You haven't worked enough on your balance, you're likely to be just like, sloppy, and you're likely not to be accurate because you're going to have tension. A lot of people have tension when they throw power. Now, another thing that's a non-negotiable is manage your fatigue, or manage your body language. Don't show that you're tired. Don't communicate to everyone. I mean, if you're experienced, it doesn't matter. If you're experienced, oh man, I'm tired. It doesn't matter, because you can switch it on and off. If I don't want to show you I'm tired, I won't show you I'm tired. I could do that. But if you're like a beginner and you're on your way up and you haven't got those habits like ingrained, like you can't switch it on and off, your body language, you're not aware, then it's better that at all times just practice not ever showing fatigue. Yeah, and don't show stress in your face. Don't show frustration. Don't ever like acknowledge. I mean, not don't ever, but what I'm saying is practice not acknowledging when someone hits you or lands a shot, because that's what you want to take into a fight. Later, when you're a bit more experienced, and you can, because it's nice to give feedback, like, oh yeah, that was a good shot, fist bump, whatever. But like, if you're training to be a fighter, you gotta be able to eliminate all those body language signals that show weakness. Once you're able to do that and you're comfortable and you can switch it on and off, then sometimes you can spar relaxed and you can show your weaknesses because there's no reason not to. And sometimes you want to practice like, all right, now's the time for this round. I'm not going to show one piece of weakness, which is I'm not going to show that I'm tired. I'm not going to show that it hurt, that his shot hurt me. I'm not going to show that his shot even got a response, or if they throw a shot and it lands and there was no reaction from you, there's a little bit of doubt in them. They're not ever going to know that, oh, did it even land, or did I even hurt him, or it's not as good as I thought. Like there's a little doubt, a little seed of doubt that you just planted. You want to play with this, because if you don't do it in training, you're never going to do it it's not going to come out in a fight. You need to practice these things. But just to recap, sparring priority, non-negotiables is being accurate, being balanced. That's it. So now with all of that, if I have missed anything, let me know. If you have any questions, which you should, let me know in the comments. And